Okay. So, welcome to the next PLGBC meeting experts. Chinnu, I think we could start.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Magda. Today, I'd like to thank PLGBC for giving PM the opportunity to speak about a very important topic in today's world, which is the decarbonization in building sector. Um, it's a privilege for us because we work very closely in the sector, trying to solve our clients' problems and trying to find out what are the problem cases in most projects. And I'm happy to share my expertise with you on the topic. And I'm also hoping to learn from the audiences as well today. Um, Before I start, I just would love to introduce myself. I'm Chinnu Joseph. I'm a sustainability consultant and energy modeler in PM Group Wroclaw, and I started out in the field of energy retrofits and decarbonization. I worked very closely with existing buildings, trying to solve a lot of the problems. My expertise were energy audits, energy modeling, and I moved to Poland close to 3 years back, where I experienced more and more knowledge in the new building sector. Um, I have over 6 years of experience, and I work in sectors close to food, advanced manufacturing, commercial buildings, offices, and I also happen to be a lead accredited professional in operation and maintenance and building design and construction. Um, uh, the certification or the credential also helped me closely see buildings in from a very holistic point of view, um, and appreciate sustainability in buildings much more closely. Before we start the presentation, and I would love to address a safety moment. Uh, PM Group takes safety extremely important in the work in the organization, and it's my privilege to introduce to you a safety issue which we all must concentrate and focus on. Um, like we all know, batteries are an extremely energy intensive industry in terms of production. It's The carbon offsets are extremely difficult to um, overcome. I encourage everyone to start handling batteries at home as users in everyday life, so that we can handle, store, and dispose it more responsibly. Batteries have a lot of concerns. There are environmental concerns to having batteries. There are fire risks. We know about chemical leakage as well. So some protocols to help us handle and store them properly and more efficiently at home is extremely important. I would suggest to keep your new and used batteries separately. I know it's something small, or it's not something people would really focus on, but small practices could go a long way. Um, it's important to store it at your room temperatures or below. Keep it away from your children's, your pets, because we know about the chemical leakage that can associate with batteries. I would also encourage to take part in local battery recycling programs. Spread awareness as much as possible to your neighbors, to your colleagues as much as possible, because they do look very small, but they need to be handled with a lot of delicacy. Sometimes it's the smaller things that count, and I do stress on the importance of being conscious and aware of handling it at home. Moving to the agenda of the webinar, I'm going to start with a small introduction of PM Group, and then move into why or what the drivers of decarbonization is and should be. Um, go a little bit more region specific and find out what are the targets that we have as a country, what we must follow, and then move into a specific case study which I myself handled in Poland in PM Group. It's a quite interesting project, a lot to learn from, personally for me, and I hope for all of you here. It's the insights and the learnings and the solutions. I hope it empowers most of you in your work life to try and implement it in your projects, and I hope it motivates you to decarbonize further. And yeah, so let's proceed. Speaking about PM Group, we don't have any stakeholders. It's a completely employee-owned organization. We are over 3,600 people, and we have about 50 plus years experience in project management, in design consultancy, in construction management. Um, we have extreme expertise in different sectors, such as food and advanced manufacturing, pharmaceutical, which is life sciences, mission critical sectors. Um, uh, I have honestly been able to learn a lot from my colleagues, and with the amount of expertise that I have come across in PM Group. So our capabilities in Europe are spread across, like you can see that map out there. We have our presence in the Western Europe, in the Eastern Europe, and we also provide engineering procurement services, construction management. We have special services as well, to look after in terms of any expertise or problem solving that the client demands. Um, in terms of stats, like I mentioned earlier, we are completely employee owned. We have 27 plus years of experience in Poland, and we have two offices here, one in Wrocław and the other one in Warsaw. We know, PM Group is committed to, they have long-term emission reduction goals with respect to corporate goals, and like you can see there, the EcoVadis certification was achieved by us very recently. So we are very active, and we work towards the transitioning in the green side, even in the corporate, even in our corporate goals. These are just some of our clients we work with. We have huge list of clients who are extremely happy and come back to us. We work with new clients as well. Some of them I have worked personally with myself. Um, yeah. Coming back to where I work in the ES department or the environment and sustainability department, we offer a lot of services in sustainability. It really depends on what the project needs, what the client wants. But what is really important in the slide is the scope that we can cover is quite wide. We can help you with net zero design solutions, construction and commissioning, planning and advisory, and many more. Um, we have experts in each field. For example, I'm an energy modeler myself, and we cater to specific demands of the client in terms of their requirement. So moving to the focus of this presentation, I'd like to point out the main drivers for decarbonization in today's world. Um, so here's a small definition of how I believe we should go from carbon neutral to net zero. Let me give you an example. For example, I choose to come to work. I can definitely come to work in maybe like a petrol car or a diesel car and try to offset the emissions by probably like um, uh, by maybe buying some renewable energy, or by offsetting it with some PV systems at home. But what would be net zero would be me biking to work. So that's a very simple explanation of how what's the difference between carbon neutral and carbon net zero. I would be significantly reducing my emissions if I become more comprehensive and I become more ambitious. If I am ambitious, I would bike. It's like taking up maybe a small diet program or something, but it's ambitious. So I think it's important that we focus more on reducing emissions rather than offsetting them in our life or in any environment. Um, Here are some carbon reduction strategies in the European Union, which um, we focus on, which these are policies which the EU has stated, and for example, the Fit for 55. So it aims to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% compared to 1990 levels, introducing smart and sustainable mobility, or just improving the transportation infrastructure. Um, the associated benefits with most energy reduction opportunities, like creating better air quality, water quality. So these are some of the main policies in the EU carbon reduction strategies. But what we will be really focusing would be enhancing energy efficiency in buildings, because the presentation is specifically about decarbonization in buildings. Um, it's quite an ambitious goal, because we do have an existing building stock and we have a new building stock. So the regulations for it would be completely different. It's easier to target the new building stock, but it's extremely difficult also to work with the existing building stock. So um, like it says there, it's an ambitious goal, and this could mean renovating 35 million buildings to be more energy efficient. Um, yeah. Moving into more regulatory aspects of uh, the EU, there's an energy performance of buildings directive, which aims at targeting or bringing more legislative framework in the building sector. and they focus on basically creating a more decarbonization building stock in the EU. In 2030, we expect all new buildings to be completely uh, uh, reduced emissions net zero. And uh, well, there are different regions which have legal requirements written differently, but they all follow the energy performance of building directives. That's the mandatory legislation or the main legislation which is being transferred into different regulations, region specific. Moving to Poland. In Poland, as we all know, we are still very heavily dependent on burning fossil or very coal dependent, I would say. Um, but in terms of statistics, in the last couple of years, I would say, or what is being promised in terms of transition, there's been a huge change. Um, we account for about 10.7% of EU's net greenhouse gas emissions. Um, uh, from the year 2005 to 2023, we've already reduced about 11.6% of the greenhouse gas emissions. Yes, our mix still is predominantly fossil. It's 42.6%, but there's hope because I came across that 2049 would be um, the year that Poland would, will have their last coal mine. That looks very promising, and I really hope it works. Following also the amount of renewables that we are incorporating into Poland, for example, PVs or solars, along with onshore and offshore wind projects. Uh, they seem to have grown significantly, and in 2022, the percentage of renewables to the mix of um, energy mix of Poland has been 20.6%. So I would say there's a huge transition, or maybe like a growing transition rather. I would like to correct myself. And there's hope and there's promise for future. Like we all know, the energy policy of Poland has been very strictly laid out in terms of a few of these on few of these lines, which is especially after the war, the plan to become more resilient to fossil gases, a, trying to electrify the grid as much as possible in your premises, identifying grid system flexibility for changes, which is a huge challenge, and we must look after that. Developing alternate sources, renewable energy sources, which we'll speak about more closely as in when we go through our case studies as well, so that I can give you more examples. Like you see, the plan changes and the green transformation plans are quite evident in terms of their goal. So according to their 2040 goal, as you can see, the mix of renewables are increasing with respect to their other counterparts. The mix of renewables and nuclear energy have been increasing with respect to gas and coal. And in terms of the Polish energy companies, the kind of investments that they are taking are quite massive and huge in terms of green transformation as well. So let's just say it's more promising. And honestly, before moving to Poland, I did ask myself these questions as well. So it's worth asking, as especially sustainability consultants who are working in this field. it's important to know these questions and to understand policies much better before you step into any project. Let's move to buildings more specifically. So in buildings, usually there's two kinds of sources where we can expect emissions. Embodied carbon is associated all to do with the materials in your building, the kind of construction practices or the materials that is primarily focused in embodied carbon, while operational carbon is how much would you use to run the building. It's as simple as it is. The difference is quite um, is obvious, and I would say both are equally important. Operational carbon is more difficult to measure, so is embodied carbon. Both has its own challenges, and it has its own practices to compute, to analyze, and to deal with. Like you can see, 39% of the world GHG emissions are due to buildings, and in this 39, 11% of it is contributed through materials and construction, and about 28% through building operations. Okay, so decarbonization sounds very difficult, but no, it's quite simple. It's just three practices that we even learn in school. It's reduce, recover, and replace. We in PM follow this strategy very closely. Our first primary goal is to observe how we could reduce, what's more efficient in the market. um, is there something to recover? Is there something we can use on site, for something, for creating energy or diverting energy or water to such processes, so that we can play in the same field? And what exactly do we replace? So is there any strategies to look into renewables? Do we have the infrastructure for it? So these are the three main um, um, strategies that we look at very closely. So which is reduce, recover, and replace. Simple. Building operations are scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. I'm not getting into it because I'm sure most of you might know that. How do we optimize energy use? The most difficult part of optimizing energy use is quantification. Quantification is extremely difficult for a project, and if you have the right resources, if you have the right framework, if you know where to look for it, it's often easier to interpret than done. An energy balance is something that we do in PM very closely. It's the whole crux of the decarbonization. It's important to understand how a facility works, and to understand how a facility works, the most important thing is an energy balance. And what I mean with energy balance is where what is getting used, how much is getting used, which processes have more electricity, which processes use less electricity. Compare the two so that you know where you can save more. Um, so this is a graph which we usually show our clients once we have finished our analysis, and once we have everything in place. We split our measures according to the investments, and we show it in like a roadmap. Like for example, we show them over the year from 2022 to 2030, how exactly would you navigate? And we show them with in a very pictorial representation way, so that they understand the kind of investments at stake, they understand the kind of carbon footprints that they wish to um, that they can reduce with respect to their baseline. Uh, like I said, energy balance is the most important part of the decarbonization study, and we often quantify it or we split it in terms of percentage. For example, like we know in this case that the embodied carbon is and the operational carbon is of a certain value. So we've kind of find out what it actually is contributing to on site. So as you can see here, it's 40% attributed to process equipment. So ideally, if we can introduce some energy efficient measures in process, that would be more beneficial um for for the client, followed by other processes depending on the scope, depending, but there are multiple challenges on site. There could be multiple limitations, so we must address it more and more site specific. But looking at this graph, I would say I would probably most likely go for targeting or seeing what are the process equipment, is there any inefficiency, and try and suggest an efficiency measure to that, because it's about 40% of the mix. So this is a small example of how an energy balance study could help us on site. In terms of the kind of strategies that we suggest the client, there are many. Um, uh, there are multiple. I cannot speak about everything because I see a lot, but I I could focus mostly maybe on HVAC. In terms of HVAC energy optimization, because um, it's crucial in most of the buildings that we do visit. It's running for almost 24/7. There are ample amount of opportunities or loopholes that we see that we can strategize. um, for example, demand control ventilation is something that is extremely effective, because you're not running uh, the air side unit for extremely long time, but you're oscillating or or readjusting it according to the demand. It again, these strategies depend with respect to the site, with respect to the kind of application in the building, but there are ample amount of strategies and innovations that we can recommend to the client. Um, so it's important to understand the factors that also affect um decarbonization. Uh, there are many such strategies which we'll be able to evaluate when you go for site visits. Uh, One of the most important, crucial parts of the decarbonization study is going for site visits. It's important to go to the site, understand what your limitations could be on site. Is Does your goal or does your innovation align with the client's corporate goals? Is there something that we can do additionally? Is there something that we can do less? So it's often like a flow chart that you see here. It's we need to evaluate multiple strategies and factors in order to move with our solutions forward, and it can impact the efficiency. Sometimes we want to do more, but due to limitations we are incapable of. So we will definitely reduce the degree of energy efficiency, but it might be beneficial in many other ways as well. Moving to my case study, which I did with PM. Uh, this case study was primarily a food and manufacturing facility. in Poland. I'm not able to reveal information about the client because um, sorry, sorry, I need to check because I might have an issue with my charge.
Chinnu has a little problem with her charge, so we give her some moment. And for now, I just want to remind you that you can use our chat to write some question if you have for our experts. And for the end of our meeting, we will have some Q&A session. Okay, so you are back. Just please on your microphone and yes.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I have no idea what happened. Yeah. Yeah. So where are we? Yeah. This is about my case study, which I worked very closely in food and manufacturing. So moving to this project, my first question was to the client because we really needed to identify what the client targets look like. Um, uh, it's um, it's important to understand that we align with the client. So the client did mention to us that their targets are quite high. It's 50% reductions in scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. I had that noted. I further went to find out what the opportunities could be on site, for which we did site surveys. We understood what the facility comprises of. We understood the systems on the site. We did surveys with many teams, facility management teams, so that we can closely understand how it operates. Yeah. Sorry, am I audible?
Okay.
Hello. Hello.
We hear you. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Sorry again. Yeah. There was a lot of food on this on site, so I was quite drawn to that as well. But no, I focused on the work. There was we needed to understand the production capacity. So you need to understand, in this case, how much of consumable food does the client have, and how often do they operate it. It's a very important metric in this case, because the client had plans of future expansion. And in that case, we knew that our baselines would shift, because we needed a baseline to show the reduction. So any future expansion in terms of the production facility was also noted. We had some conversations where they communicated what it would look like in 2027. We also PM successfully engineered solutions for the client by reducing 16% of their carbon reduction measures. Like I said, it's important to do it more realistically and more techno-commercially, I would say. So we were successful enough to draw them solutions, and we could promise or reduce 16% of the carbon reduction. Uh, of course, we had challenges on the site. Uh, I happened to notice that we couldn't capture much data because the site was not energy monitored, or it didn't have like a central BMS system, which is a building management system that captures the energy data. Instead, we needed to evaluate systems one by one and take instantaneous measurements um, of HVAC systems or process systems, so that we know that how much they would add to the energy balance study. So and because we also knew that the the client was facing up or planning an expansion, we knew that we are going to work with a much bigger baseline. So responsibilities were also much higher, which faced or gave us more challenges to work with. So um, m- we follow this workflow for decarbonization. So I thought it was apt to bring it forth at this point. uh, because you're often confused, like how do we go about it. So it's very simple. So the first thing is, like I mentioned, is site audits. Visit the site and understand what the challenges and what your opportunities would be. Collect data as much as possible, because we work heavily on data. So it's important to, if it's in form of bills, or if it's in form of energy and water bills, collect them. If it is in form of any centralized BMS system, like I said, it's important to collect them and to gather as much as data as possible, because it's all going to help you with better analysis. Um, the next step would be to establish carbon emission factors. Carbon emission factors are factors which are more region specific. So each region would have its own carbon emission factor, because it's technically going to depend on the grid of the nation. So it's basically going to depend on the mix or the energy mix of that particular region. So based on the region, for some it's already established, but if it is not, it's important to go and find out what your emission factors would look like, because we are going to use these emission factors to quantify carbon emissions. Moving forward, the most important and step would be to identify the energy saving opportunities. Um, mm, we do suggest the solutions, but it there's a lot of engineering that goes behind the solution. We need to, if it's a system, we need to size the apt system. So we need to incorporate the system, we need to incorporate engineered data of the system, and find out how much of carbon reduction that we can achieve. So finding the solution, we often work with a lot of trusted suppliers, and we work with a lot of trusted vendors who have been incorporating with us, with the Yes team, for quite some time. So we do have the best of solutions uh, uh, from them, and we can tailor it according to the specificity of the site. So depending on the site, we can tailor the solutions to suit the particular building site. The next step would be to estimate what the savings would be, which is what the client is mostly interested in. Actually, it's the next one, but But savings are equally important because it will really help them to see if they align with their corporate sustainability goals. So we use the proposed technology. We estimate what the solutions or the savings, so the solutions, and then what the savings could be, and then we move to doing a cost benefit analysis. It's extremely important for a client to make a decision. So we do have capital operation cost for the measure. We do have payback calculations which we do for the client. So all of this will help the client understand what solution they should go for. I can explain it closely in the next slides as we go. So we had a list of proposed decarbonization solutions for our project. Like I said, we follow the reduce, recover, and replace. So the first step would be to identify, is there anything that we can reduce on site? Is there anything that we can recover on site? So we observed a lot of waste heat. We observed a lot of waste heat which was underutilized and which probably needs to be prepped before we divert it to a different stream. But estimating the waste heat and diverting from the compressor, fridge plant, or from the boiler room can help us use it for process applications, let's say, or for any heating applications that the site has. Three of our strategies were deriving this waste heat from the boiler room, from the compressed air plant, and from the compressors fridge plant room. Moving on to on-site renewable technologies, we had suggested two solutions to the client. So we had PV installation for roof. So we proposed to install PVs on the new roof. And we also, the client was interested to also understand the idea of, they were building new carports. So we decided to propose a solution to install PV on the carports as well. So both of these solutions, they really focus on adding renewables into the grid, and or using the renewables on site for other applications. And finally, our most interesting solution for the client was the biogas plant. So it was the perfect solution because it's a food facility, so there's obviously going to be huge amounts of waste in terms of food, and we had some study done to analyze what the methane content of the food would be, and we realized that it could be quite potential for a combined heat and power unit on site, or we could integrate biogas with our burner. So these were two strategies that we suggested to the client, and the client was extremely impressed. Um, so three of these strategies were quite ideal for the client because we could target, or we could focus on each and every aspect possible on site. Like I mentioned before, an energy balance study is extremely important. So what we try to do is we first understood where the energy comes from. So we came to know that, okay, we have 41% from electricity, 59% natural gas use on site. So we try to understand what the breakdown of the electricity end uses. So depending on the systems that we have on site, because we didn't have much data, we from the BMS, we tried to do a lot of site visits, and we tried to estimate what each specific element contributed in the building. So for example, 39% of the um, of the electricity breakdown was through process. So it's quite evident that we must focus on that. The ammonia glycol system was about 36%, which is basically the HVAC system. So that was something which we also focused on. Moving forward, so we promised the client about 16% reduction in carbon emissions, and we tried to recover from existing processes and use emerging technologies, like for example a biogas plant. We tried to recover waste heat on site. We also replaced on-site energy sources with alternate green energy like PV and renewables. All of this helped us to reduce 16% of the client emissions, and obviously a lot of thermal and a little bit of electric emissions. In the end, we proposed the client sort of a roadmap to decarbonization, I would like to call it. It's more like how the different strategies would play out in our roadmap, which is the duration of the years, and what would the cumulative capital cost look like for the client, and with respect to their reductions in carbon emissions. And it's often it's easier to leave it here. It's much easier. You can just present this to the client and go. But when it goes to a much more higher level, or when it goes to more from a stakeholder point of view, it's much it's worth to often make the solutions look, or to present it more visually easy. So what I call this is like a techno-commercial feasibility, which is with respect to the cost and the payback, where would each measure we propose look like? So of course savings are proportional, but in terms of, like for example, a PV installation or a roof or a biogas is an extremely capex intensive, as also something which has a higher payback. But for example, like a heat recovery solution in the boiler room, for example, is something with a lower payback and a lower cost. So this helps from a corporate standpoint of view for people to understand which measure should they ideally invest at what phase of their roadmap. So this is extremely important to I understood that visually representing much easier formats would be much easier for the client to follow. So that's it. And we also happen to have done a lot of decarbonization projects in PM. We work very closely to many sectors. So these are few sectors which we focus on for in terms of decarbonization study. In this case, the solutions are different. The kind of technology, the screening, the kind of solutions that you opt for are extremely different. But we have different sectors which we focus on very closely. This is a pharmaceutical company, like we all know, and we also had some decarbonization technology which was explored and done, which is again solar PV, renewable gas, heat pumps. So these are some region specific case studies that we have worked on. We also have a team in China, an office in China, and they have also, well, we work across different countries, but they also had like a distillery facility there, and we one of their tasks in the projects were to reduce the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. So that's it from my side. I hope this presentation was useful. I really think that coming back to why decarbonization is extremely important, because your climate is ever changing. You can assess it in the place where we live and where we practice. We can see the weather patterns changing. So it's very important to move to cleaner energy sources. It's very important to increase efficiency. I am extremely passionate about sustainability. Yes, I'm a growing, budding, maybe a consultant, but I took this up with a lot of passion because I really wanted to contribute a lot to the environment that I'm living in. So it's important to understand sustainability goals much closer. It's important to invest and focus and learn, research much on cleaner energy sources. And more so when you practice this, it's extremely important to speak to the client with respect to a technical as well as a commercial aspect, because that really pushes the wheel for clients and corporates to take up more solutions and sustainability goals. So that's it. I open the floor to all of you, and if you have any questions, you can please feel free to ask me at this point, or I can see most of the questions are in Polish. Unfortunately,
So basically, there is a question if it's a possibility to contact you and ask about presentation. So just as you said, they can feel free to contact you. So if anyone wants to ask about something in this presentation, now you can write your questions here, or later you can write email to Chinnu or to Alina. Alina speaks Polish.
I just would like to say that the PM culture is extremely beautiful in our office. I know we have extremely friendly people here, so don't hesitate to call any of us. We're quick to respond, and we will definitely answer most of your questions. So you may contact us, or you may let us know in the chat right now. And if there's anything I cannot answer, I will ask you to email me.
Okay, so thank you very much, Chinnu, for your presentation and for telling us about decarbonization in interesting and also easy to understand way. It was a pleasure. So for now, we don't have any more questions in the chat. So maybe people have to think about it, and maybe later they contact you by email.
Sure.
Yes, so thank you everybody for joining us, and I also invite you for our next meetings. In the chat, I send you a link to register for these next meetings. And for now, thank you everybody for your attention, and of course, Chinnu, for your presentation. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was
So
my pleasure too.
Thank you. Okay, so I think it's all for now. So everybody have a great day, and see you the next one. Bye.